It starts with a single irresponsible act. This sordid action is multiplied hundreds of times a day in various forms. The results are unsightly, unhealthy, and have long-term impacts on lives and livelihoods. The first man-made plastic was created by Alexander Parks. It was unveiled at the 1862 Great International Exhibition in London. The material called pakisine was organic. Derived from cellulose, that material, once heated, could be molded and retained its shape when cooled. If only Alexander Parks could see how his creation has evolved and how it impacts small islands like St. Lucia.
We really need to get away from the mentality that the government will fix it. We need to also get away from the mentality that if I throw it, I am creating a job for somebody. When we do that, we're creating a death sentence, not for one person, but really a death sentence for all of us.
Our culture is not a culture of proper waste management. Plastic makes up probably about 90% of the litter that is actually generated on the island.
In 2007, the problem of marine litter was officially recognized by the United Nations General Assembly as a matter of global concern. A call for action at the international, regional, and national levels was announced. Fast forward to 15 years later, in 2022, where heads of state, ministers of the environment, and other representatives from the UN member states endorsed a historic resolution to end plastic pollution and forge an international legally binding agreement by 2024. In fact, today, the world is experiencing the fallout of more and more land-based litter being swept into our oceans, settling throughout the water columns, congregating in large cabbage patches, leaking toxins and fragmenting into even smaller particles called microplastics. The work therefore continues when the UN General Assembly declared 2014 to be the year of Small Island Developing States, or SIDS, and as a result, special attention is being placed on threats to the stability of SIDS, with an acute focus on the problem of marine litter.
We are in the stage where we're facing triple crisis. We have the climate change crisis, we have the biodiversity loss crisis, and we have the pollution crisis.
According to the United Nations Joint Group of Experts on the Scientific Aspect of Marine Environment Protection, 60 to 80% of the world's marine pollution comes from land-based sources and activities. The analysis of the data collected in the Caribbean through various beach and underwater cleanup activities conducted by local community groups and government agencies supports this claim. The majority of litter comes from indiscriminate dumping and litter on land, which end up in drains, rivers, and streams, flowing towards coastal areas, and also results from direct littering on the beach by beachgoers. The destructive forces of severe storms, wave action, and hurricane-force winds can also move litter from land to sea. The remainder of marine litter comes from the discharging of garbage directly into the sea from water-based activities such as pleasure boats and cruises, fishing and cargo ships, offshore oil rigs and platforms, fishing piers, jetties, and marinas.
If waste is properly managed, properly stored, properly packaged for collection, then the opportunity for animals to interfere with that waste and scatter the waste into drains, into ravines, then you would have less waste getting into the marine environment. There was an issue with plastics getting into the harbor. So our intervention at that time, I believe it was around 2009, is to go into a community, and that community was the Marshall community at the time, and distribute bins to persons living along the river banks so that they would store the waste there in those bins until the collection day comes. persons who live along riverbanks. As long as the river is high, it is flowing after heavy rains, tend to dispose of any and whatever they have in the backyard into the river, thinking that it would basically go away. It will leave them and then end up there.
The main type of litter found in the ocean and along coastal areas comprises plastic material from food and beverage containers, children's toys, and other non-biodegradable products. For decades, the ocean has been the office of St. Lucia's dive operators who have recorded the progression from pristine to polluted.
Before the advent of water, bottled water, you would not see a plastic bottle. You would occasionally see a discarded plastic drum, like a fisherman would have it on his boat, and over years it would crack and he'd just throw it in the ocean. So occasionally you'd come across that. So that's what had happened. But when more plastics when they started to use more plastic on land, then more plastic started to appear on the water. And you'd find after rainy periods, that's when you see like an increase in plastics.
Both aquatic and terrestrial animals can be negatively affected by the presence of marine litter. Some species mistake trash for food which, when ingested, may cause damage to the throat and stomach, and often death.
One of the things they feed on is jellyfish. And it's easy to see a piece of plastic looking like a jellyfish. And turtles in the past have mistaken plastic bags or other plastic items from jellyfish. And they eat it. It gets stuck sometimes in their mouth. Or they ingest it and they're affected by it. The lucky ones, a portion may be hanging out and you can pull it out. Others, they die.
Ghost fishing gear refers to ropes, nets, and other fishing waste that are lost or discarded at sea. It is thought to make up about 10% of marine litter globally. It is particularly deadly when left in the ocean, as it continues to ensnare, maim, and drown marine life for decades. Each plastic item that finds its way into the ocean will eventually disintegrate into millions of plastic fragments less than 5 millimeters in diameter, referred to as microplastics, further degrading the health of the ocean ecosystem. The hazard is caused by these vast quantities of small pieces of degraded plastic floating throughout the water columns, absorbing toxins, and later absorbing these toxins into the tissue of animals that have mistaken them for food. There are two principal categories of microplastics. Primary microplastics results from products produced for specific use, such as pre-production pallets and mini urethane beads used in soaps and cleansers. These products may end up in the ocean through spillage, improper waste disposal practices, or sewage treatment facilities which are unable to capture these microplastics and prevent their discharge into rivers and subsequently the ocean. Secondary microplastics are formed from the breakdown of larger plastic material such as beverage bottles, textiles, oil containers, fishing gear, etc. In the Caribbean, marine litter collection data from the annual International Coastal Cleanup Day shows that 67.5% of the items retrieved from coastal areas were made of plastic.
Some of our strange findings would be like mattresses, we get tires, we get vehicle parts, and we've realized that improper waste disposal from our homes is what gets to our land, our waterways. Throughout the areas that we realize that you have the most plastic is areas where persons do direct fishing. So that on our seaports. So right in Bannon area, you get a lot of plastic accumulating in areas where the sea level, the water flows at a different Instead of it flowing outward, most time the water flows inward or in a circle, so it gathers the waste there. We have a lot in the Viewfort area, also at the Viewfort dock. We have also at the fisheries complex. We've noticed a lot in some of our the popular beaches, such as Shock Beach. We've done a lot of cleanup, especially at VG and in the Pigeon Island area. And we've noticed that persons who come to recreate along the beach, instead of their plastic or their waste is left on the beach. And this is one of the reasons why they get to the oceans. The Bois River has created what you call a carpet of waste product, where the water is hardly flowing that gets to the ocean, or the mangrove, which is what is our buffer from the mainland. And this is causing a big problem, and it's very expensive. The Caribbean Youth Environment Network do not have the resources to actually deal with it. Coca-Cola is one of the biggest funding internationally for international coastal cleanup. And here in St. Lucia, we have worked with them. They fund a lot of our coastal cleanup activities. We've also engaged organizations such as the water companies in St. Lucia and also KFC. Currently, the Ocean Conservancy has added another category to our waste collection database, and it's identifying the organizations, so the bottle, what is written on the bottle, who manufactures the bottle, who manufactures the waste products that we get along, and they are contacted. So the business establishments are contacted into funding some of the cleanup, funding some of the removal of this waste, and also encouraged to reduce some of their waste.
On July 3, 2018, Massey Stores St. Lucia Limited implemented a 25-cent charge for the single-use plastic bags used for bagging groceries at their supermarkets. The company stated that the strategy formed part of its commitment to becoming more environmentally friendly.
We decided to transition our customers away from single-use plastics by doing two things. The first one is we introduced reusable bags as an option to taking single-use plastics in our stores. 2 years in, we saw at least an 80% reduction in the amount of plastic bags that we were giving out for free. So that would be 2 years in, about each year on average, about 6.5 million bags were actually diverted from the landfill. So over the 2 years, about 12 million, and I'm sure that figure has improved year on year.
On the morning of September 18th, 2020, 40 divers started the process of cleaning the marine sites and bayfront at Barons Drive, Maguetut, and the Hummingbird Beach Resort in Soufrière, at the front of Sandals Lotok Resort and the Bay Gardens Reef, close to the VG Beach area in the vicinity of a gully from Leclerc. The focus of the cleanup was waste reduction, particularly of single-use plastics. This activity was coordinated by the Department of Sustainable Development in collaboration with the St. Lucia Dive Association, several hotels, and certified divers. Funding for this project came at the courtesy of Massey Stores St. Lucia Limited. In keeping with the government's promise to continue plans to reduce the dependence on single-use plastic on the island, Parliament passed the Styrofoam and Plastics Food Service Container Prohibition Act on June 11, 2019, which was revised in 2020.
It is really looking at banning the importation, the use, the sale, the manufacturing and distribution of selected single-use plastic food service containers. And in fact, the government is trying to assist this process by having a 0% import duty that has been put forward for persons wishing to import biodegradable and compostable food service containers. And those made out of plant material that can degrade more easily than the plastic that takes a very, very long time to break down.
Consistent with Sustainable Development Goal number 14, Life Below Water, St. Lucia has also adopted a national ocean policy in 2020, which was one of the outcomes maintaining and improving the integrity of the ecosystem. The policy recognizes that pollution, including marine litter, plastic, sewage, oil, and chemicals, affects our transition towards a blue economy, impacting the value of goods and services provided by the ocean, including quality of fisheries and health of marine environment, highly valued by the tourism sector. The Regional Action Plan for Marine Litter for the wider Caribbean region was originally developed in 2007 as a project under the directive of the United Nations Environment Programme through the Regional Seas Programme in response to growing global concerns of litter accumulation in our oceans. Action, including the development of a national marine litter management action plans, are steadfastly undertaken by island states of the wider Caribbean region, with measures to be implemented by each country to address this shared challenge.
And that Marine Litter Management Action Plan also comes with a national source inventory to really see what are the sources of our of pollution, what's the composition, what kind of quantities are we talking about, and how can we best address it. So overall, with this Marine Litter Management Action Plan, including the national source inventory that comes with it, it is looking at having greater knowledge and data and evidence regarding our waste, regarding the pathways, where is our waste coming from, what are the channels and the pathways that they take, and any leakage that we may have. It's also looking at the issue of having better understanding of the quantities and composition of our waste. It's also looking at having greater coherence and cooperation among the various teams and players responsible for waste management, but also synergies among the various policies that exist. As you would appreciate, there are a number of agencies that have some role or the other to play in waste management. So working together and also looking for the opportunities for collaboration to truly enhance the way we deal with waste in St. Lucia.
From production to import, to sale to use, to distribution to disposal, a number of stakeholders have a role to play in effective waste management across public and private sector agencies, community-based organizations, retailers, wholesalers, and everyday people. Marine debris isn't an ocean problem, it's a people problem. This means that we the people, are the solution. Tackling the problem of garbage, including plastic, in the ocean begins on land. Let us all commit to keeping our beaches and oceans trash-free. Reduction in plastic use, especially of single-use disposable products, the collection and recycling of plastics, and appropriate disposal habits can help to decrease the amount of plastic waste that enters the ocean. Sustained public education programs by government, non-governmental organizations, private sector, and community groups can go a long way to contributing to the solution of this major issue. The Marine Litter Management Action Plan will take on a highly collaborative approach and focus on public awareness, outreach programs, tougher laws and policies, and enforcement, which are the building blocks for a successful marine pollution management initiative.